D'accord, donc je vous remets officiellement les clés
Merci, Excellence.
de ces hôpitaux de campagne. Je pense que la
Today, Burkina Faso takes a decisive step toward medical sovereignty. With India's partnership, we are building West Africa's first advanced cancer treatment and research center in Ouagadougou. This is not aid, but cooperation between equals, bringing world-class care, research, and training to our people, so no Burkina must leave home for life-saving treatment.
The lights in the operating theater glared white against stainless steel. A young girl lay on the table, her tiny chest rising under the slow rhythm of anesthesia. Around her, a team of surgeons moved with quiet precision, half wearing white coats marked with the crest of Burkina Faso, half with badges from India's leading cancer institutes. The operation was more than a matter of saving one life, it was history in motion. Minutes ticked by, monitors beeped. A tumor the size of a small orange was being removed with equipment so advanced it had never before crossed the borders of West Africa. This was not a mission run by foreign charities or aid agencies. This was Burkina Faso's own doctors, standing shoulder to shoulder with Indian specialists, in the first step of what President Ibrahim had promised, a homegrown, state-of-the-art cancer treatment and research center in Ouagadougou. How did this bold plan come together? And why did India, thousands of miles away, become the key partner in this life-saving project? To answer that, we have to go back before the operating room, before the deal was signed, to a relationship decades in the making. Decades before the cancer center was even a dream, Burkina Faso and India were weaving a quiet but steady relationship. It began in 1976, when the Commerce Minister led a delegation to New Delhi. The visit ended with a signed protocol on economic and technical cooperation, a small headline then, but the first brick in a bridge between the two nations. Over the years, the partnership deepened. India sent agricultural machinery, tractors, tillers, spare parts, helping farmers modernize. It opened scholarships and vocational training for students under programs like the C.V. Raymond Fellowship. It even offered solar electrification projects in rural villages. By the time Ibrahim took office, India was already a trusted friend, but saw more than friendship. He saw an opportunity to reshape the map of African healthcare. On June 26, 2025, Burkina Faso signed fresh cooperation agreements with 8 countries. India was not just on that list, it was at the top. Why? Because India had something no Western partner could offer in the same way. A record of building world-class medical infrastructure at costs that African nations could actually afford, and a philosophy rooted in South-South cooperation, countries helping each other as equals, not as donors and recipients. Still, having good relations and having a state-of-the-art cancer center are two different things. The spark that ignited this project wasn't just diplomatic goodwill, it was a dramatic medical breakthrough that proved what the two nations could achieve together. Before 2024, if you needed a kidney transplant in Burkina Faso, you faced 2 options: spend years waiting for an unlikely overseas medical visa, or go without. Then came the day that rewrote that reality. A patient lay on the table for the country's first ever kidney transplant. Indian nephrologists worked alongside local surgeons, guiding each incision, each stitch, while advanced equipment flown in under a special medical cooperation deal hummed in the background. Hours later, the operation was declared a success. News of the transplant swept across the country. For many, it was the first time they'd heard of a complex surgery being performed entirely within Burkina Faso. It was proof that his vision was possible. If they could do this safely, successfully, why stop at one specialty? Why not aim for a center that could tackle one of the deadliest, most complex diseases in the world? India's own experience made it the ideal partner. The country had gone from scarce oncology resources in the 1980s to a global leader in affordable, cutting-edge cancer care. The government realized they could replicate that trajectory faster by importing not just machines, but systems, training, and expertise. That kidney transplant was more than a medical milestone. It was a signal flare to the future, a future that would be built brick by brick in Ouagadougou, on a plot of land soon to be home to West Africa's first advanced cancer treatment and research center. When announced the cancer center, skeptics called it a fantasy. How could a nation still developing basic healthcare suddenly leap to advanced oncology? The answer lay in India's Basavatara Kamindo American Cancer Hospital and Research Institute in Hyderabad. This Indian non-profit was world-renowned for combining patient care with active research, and doing so at a fraction of Western costs. Its leaders agreed to share not just medical protocols, but the architectural and operational blueprint for the facility itself. The plan called for three main pillars: treatment, research, and training. Treatment would focus on advanced surgeries, radiation therapy, and chemotherapy tailored to local cancer patterns. Research would track regional cancer trends, how diet, environment, and genetics played into cases. Training would prepare doctors, nurses, and lab technicians to run the center independently within a decade. India's role wasn't just advisory. It committed to supplying initial equipment, sending rotating teams of specialists, and hosting medical staff in Indian hospitals for immersive training. The blueprint was bold, but building it would mean confronting the toughest challenge yet: creating the physical and human infrastructure to sustain it. In Ouagadougou, cranes rose against the skyline as the foundations of the center took shape. But this was no easy build. Power outages threatened construction schedules. Importing radiation machines required navigating layers of bureaucratic red tape. Government pushed through by setting up a dedicated medical infrastructure task force. Perhaps the biggest hurdle was human, not structural. Many still believed that complex diseases like cancer could only be treated abroad. The Ministry of Health launched public awareness campaigns featuring real patients, survivors, and doctors explaining the coming services. The turning point came when the first wing of the center opened early for outpatient screenings. Lines formed outside. People wanted to be part of something new, something hopeful. Each patient walking through those doors was a small victory, proof that trust was taking root. And with trust came the chance to tackle the next phase: transforming the center from just a treatment hub into a research powerhouse. Curing cancer isn't just about treating patients, it's about understanding the disease in the context where it appears. Burkina Faso had long lacked detailed data on local cancer patterns. That was about to change. Through the partnership, Indian oncologists helped establish research labs inside the center. They introduced protocols for collecting and analyzing tumor samples, tracking treatment outcomes, and conducting population-level studies. Doctors began co-authoring research papers with Indian colleagues, sharing findings at international conferences. The data yielded immediate surprises. Certain cancers were showing up more frequently in rural farming regions, possibly linked to environmental factors like pesticide exposure. Pediatric cases of lymphoma were higher than expected, prompting new outreach to rural clinics for early detection. This research fed directly back into patient care. Treatments could be tailored to the realities of West African cancer patients, rather than relying solely on data from Europe or North America. And yet, for all its growing capabilities, the center's true significance extended beyond medicine. It was shaping something deeper, a sense of sovereignty in healthcare. For decades, African healthcare had been shaped by dependency on foreign aid, on charity missions, on imported expertise. This center was different. By partnering with India, Burkina Faso had chosen a model based on equality. India wasn't dictating terms, it was collaborating. It wasn't giving aid, it was sharing knowledge, technology, and systems that Burkina Faso could own and operate. That shift was powerful. Economically, it meant fewer families forced into catastrophic debt traveling abroad for treatment. Medically, it meant building a generation of specialists who could train the next. Politically, it meant demonstrating that African nations could forge high-level projects without leaning on traditional power centers in the West. And perhaps most importantly, it was inspiring others. Delegations from neighboring countries began visiting the site. Conversations started about regional partnerships, shared research databases, and training exchanges. The dream of a West African oncology network was no longer abstract, it was on the horizon. All of this was set in motion by a single, symbolic moment: the day a little girl entered an operating room and emerged with a second chance at life. Weeks after her surgery, the young girl from our opening scene was back home, playing in the dusty courtyard of her family's compound. Her laughter carried down the street, a sound so ordinary, yet in her case, extraordinary. The center that saved her is still growing, more equipment arriving, more staff training, more patients walking through its doors. But already, it's more than a hospital. It's a statement that Burkina Faso can build world-class healthcare on its own terms, with partners who respect its sovereignty. For Ibrahim, it's proof that bold vision can be more than political rhetoric. It can be steel and stone, scalpel and microscope, hope and healing, and for every patient yet to come, it is a promise. The fight against cancer in West Africa no longer starts at the airport. It starts here at home.